We're the Wild Center, this is Lunchtime Live. We're talking about nature and exciting wildlife. Encounters with otters and owls too, from Tupper Lake right to you. Learn about the plants and trees, there's so much to explore and see. Lunchtime Live, it's time to start the show. From the Wild Center, here we go.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Lunchtime Live. Today is Monday, November 16th. My name is Nick, and I'm here to take you on a trip around the Wild Center to take a look at what's happening this week. There's no time to waste, so let's jump right into everything happening this week at the Wild Center. As a reminder, the Wild Center is open Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Make sure to get your ticket reservations, which are still required, at wildcenter.org/visit. Get your tickets there as well as all of your need-to-know info before you visit. All right, happening Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. is all-day animal viewing at the outdoor classroom. So from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., take a sneak peek into our outdoor animal enclosures to meet some of our resident ambassador animals, including Stickley the porcupine, Cora the common raven, and everything in between. Also happening every day are creature features in the outdoor classroom. Those happen at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., and that's your opportunity to get up close and personal with one of these animals and also chat with a Wild Center naturalist to ask any questions that you might have. All right, also happening this Thursday, November 19th, is another live event, this time with Dr. Nina Schoch from the Adirondack Center for Loon Conservation. So on November 19th at 6:30, she is hosting a program entitled Unveiling the Secret Lives of Nesting Adirondack Loons. So join Dr. Schoch as she gives a presentation that gives a summary of some of the findings of our nest camera study, as well as information about loon behavior and natural history. She's also going to be talking about the Adirondack Center for Loon Conservation, which, if you're not familiar, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting and inspiring passion for conservation of common loons. So that is a live Zoom event that happens at 6:30. The program lasts about an hour, and then there is an opportunity for question and answer afterwards. As a reminder, this event is totally free for members. If you're not a member, you can still attend, but it does cost $15. So this is another time to pitch. If you're not a Wild Center member, this is one of those perks that come along with joining the Wild Center as a member. So not only do you get to visit the Wild Center for free for a whole year, but you also get really great perks like programs like this with Dr. Schoch. So it doesn't matter, if you're within driving distance to the Wild Center, even if you're not able to make several trips here throughout the year and you're located even outside of New York State, a Wild Center membership is still great for things like this, these virtual events. All right, moving on, let's take a look at what's happening with the Wild Center's Youth Climate Program as they wrap up their Youth Have Power series. So tomorrow, Tuesday, November 17th, is their last virtual speaker series, this time covering justice, equality, and the climate crisis. So tomorrow's speaker series explore connections between climate change, racism, and equality from 3 experienced climate justice leaders. Taylor Morton, who's the Environmental Health and Education Manager of We Act for Environmental Justice, Sydney Asher, who's a youth climate leader in the Margaretville Central Schools in New York, as well as Kevin Patel, who's the founder and executive director of One Up Action. They'll be chatting, so stop in, get your facts straight on what some of the common buzzwords mean. Hear examples of disproportionate impacts of climate change from rural areas in upstate New York to communities struggling with air quality in Los Angeles. And most importantly, learn how you can advocate for climate solutions that work for everyone. So as a reminder, that is happening Tuesday, November 17th. That's tomorrow at 6:30. You can get all of that information at wildcenter.org/youth-have-power, and we'll drop that link down here. Also happening this week in terms of Youth Have Power are office hours, and those happen Wednesday, November 18th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. So feel free to stop into those office hours if you have a question about climate change or need some ideas for a socially distant climate action project. Even if you're just troubleshooting a roadblock, even if you just want to stop in and say hello, we encourage you to do that as well. That's on Wednesday, November 18th. Then on Thursday, November 17th at 7 p.m. is an opportunity for speaker reflection as a youth meetup. So that's happening Thursday, November 19th, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So as a reminder, all of that information can be found on the Youth Have Power landing page, which can be found at wildcenter.org/youth-have-power. All right, moving on. As you may know, November is the National Native American Heritage Month. It's meant to pay tribute to the rich ancestry and traditions of indigenous peoples. In honor of this month, we wanted to share a conversation that we recorded with Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer. Dr. Kimmerer is a mother, a plant ecologist, a writer, and a State University of New York distinguished teaching professor at SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry in Syracuse, New York. She also serves as the founding director of the Center for Native Peoples and the Environment, whose mission is to create programs which draw on the wisdom of both indigenous and scientific knowledge for our shared goals of sustainability. Her writings include numerous scientific articles and books, Gathering Moss, which was awarded the John Burroughs Medal for Nature Writing in 2005, and Braiding Sweetgrass, Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants, which was released in 2013. Let's go ahead and take a look.
What I'd like to read for you is a selection from a chapter in Braiding Sweetgrass called The Three Sisters. And for me, it's one of the best examples of how plants are our teachers. Because in Potawatomi ways of knowing, we think about plants not only as persons, but as our very oldest teachers. And that's a hard concept sometimes for people to grasp. Like, how could a plant teach me? This is how I think about it. Really, it should be them who tell this story, but they're quiet beings whose voices are hard to hear, especially in the wind. I've stood among them and listened, and the loudest thing is my own heartbeat. But then as you settle into the quiet, there's more. Corn leaves rustle with a signature sound. It's a papery conversation with each other and with the breeze. And on a hot day in July, when the corn can grow 6 inches in a day, there's a squeak of internodes expanding, stretching the stem toward the light. And leaves escape their sheaths with a drawn-out creak. And sometimes when everything is still, you can actually hear the sudden pop of ruptured pith when the water-filled cells become too large and turgid for the confines of the stem. These are the sounds of being, but this is not the voice. The beans, I think, make a caressing sound, a tiny hiss, as a soft-haired leader twines around the scabrous stem of the corn, and surfaces vibrate delicately against each other. Tendrils throb as they cinch around a stem, but only a flea beetle standing a few inches away could ever hear it. But this is not the song of beans. I've laid among ripening pumpkins, and this is what I hear. A creaking as those parasol leaves rock back and forth, tendered by their tendrils, and wind lifts the edge of the leaves and eases them back down again. Wouldn't a microphone in the hollow of a swelling pumpkin reveal a pop of seeds filling and the rush of water filling succulent orange flesh? These are sounds, but they're not the story. Plants tell their stories not by what they say, but by what they do. What if you were a teacher, a keeper of great knowledge, but you had no voice to speak it, and you had no pen to write it? What if you had no language at all, and yet there was something you needed to say? Wouldn't you dance it? Wouldn't you act it out? Wouldn't you have to be your own message? Wouldn't your every movement tell the story? And in time you would become so eloquent that just to gaze upon you would reveal it all. And after all, what is a sculpture but a piece of rock with topography hammered in and chiseled out? And yet that piece of rock can open your eyes and open your heart in a way that makes you different for having seen it. A message comes without a word. Not everybody will grasp it, for the language of stone is difficult. Rock mumbles. Plants speak louder than stones, in a way that every breathing thing can understand. Plants teach in the universal language of food. And years ago, a Cherokee woman pressed into my hand a small packet. It was a corn leaf, dry and folded into a pouch and tied with a bit of string. She smiled and warned, "Don't open till spring." And the next May, I untied the packet, and there was the gift. 3 seeds. One, a golden triangle, a kernel of corn with a broadly dimpled top and narrowed to a hard white tip. The glossy bean is speckled brown. Curved and sleek, its inner belly marked with a white eye, the hilum. It lingers like a polished stone between thumb and forefinger, but this is no stone. And there's a pumpkin seed, like an oval china dish, its edge crimped shut like a pie crust, bulging with filling. I hold in my hands the genius of indigenous agriculture, the 3 sisters. Together these plants, corn, beans, and squash, feed the people, feed the land, and feed our imaginations of how it is that we might live.
Thank you again to Dr. Kimmerer. I did want to point out that there's a special section of the Wild Center's website called Honoshoni Stories in Culture, which highlights a series of storytelling videos that explore traditional stories and invite us to consider different perspectives on nature and people. You can find that site at wildcenter.org/Haudenosaunee Stories and Culture. Also a plug for Dr. Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass. You can buy that at the Wild Supply Company, the Wild Center's museum store, at shop.wildcenter.org. All right, speaking of the Wild Supply Company, we wanted to wrap up today's edition of Lunchtime Live by mentioning that it is mid-November, so we are getting closer to that gift-giving season. So if you are looking for that special unique gift like this wooden burl bowl made by Dan Geinup, who is a local artisan here in the Tri-Lakes area, what better place to do it than the Wild Supply Company? So let's actually take a quick field trip out there to take a look at some of the items available. Okay, welcome inside to the Wild Supply Company. This is actually viewable by guests of the Wild Center. So if you are visiting, be sure to stop inside. It's just a small area that we have set aside to highlight some of those products at the Wild Supply Company. I do want to turn you around. Let's take a closer look at some of those wooden bowls created by Dan. So here's a better look at some of those one-of-a-kind bowls made by Dan Geinup. Now, as a reminder, Dan is a craftsman located right here in the North Country. So not only do proceeds from the Wild Supply Company go to support the Wild Center's mission and make possible everything that we do here, but it also goes to support craftsmen like Dan up here in the North Country. We do carry a lot of products made specifically by folks located in our area. So these one-of-a-kind bowls are actually made from everything from maple to cherry burls. And if you're not familiar with burls, they're those, it's a portion of the tree grain that has grown in a deformed manner. You may see them as like large bumps on a tree. Actually, if you've never been to the Wild Center, I'm going to turn you around. Let's take a look at, this is actually a chair made from a burl that we've got Ollie spotted up in. So that's one of the biggest tree burls of all time that we crafted a chair out of. But anyways, back to Wild Supply Company. So again, local craftsmen like Dan are supported here. So everything that you buy, again, proceeds from sales of the Wild Supply Company go to support Wild Center's mission. So we've got everything from Wild Center specific gear, like our Plays Well with Otters t-shirt that you may remember from earlier in the year, to jewelry in moon glow necklaces, which are really neat. If you're unfamiliar with moon glow, I suggest you do some research into that. Also have books and other one-of-a-kind gifts for everybody on your list this year. Again, get all of that info. We do ship all over the United States, and if you're in the area, we do curbside pickup as well. Get all of this information as well as all of the other products at shop.wildcenter.org. All right, thanks again for tuning in to another edition of Lunchtime Live. As a reminder, we do these live programs 7 days a week, so be sure to tune in. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, be sure to tell a friend, share with them what you like about Lunchtime Live. You can watch every single day at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time right here on our Facebook page, as well as wildcenter.org/lunchtime live. There is also a full archive, so if you've missed an episode of Lunchtime Live, be sure to head to that page to check it out. Thanks again for tuning in. Everybody have a great week.